if you're ready for that.
That's great. Thank you, Becky.
Okay, so as you know, Lori is our speaker tonight, and she has written a book, and she's a fun, interesting person as well. And she's a native Minnesotan, lifelong performing artist who worked for 2 decades inside a Fortune 50 company where she managed employee engagement programs for the international division, and that was in 38 different countries. So she kind of comes from the humanities and conducted and led the most celebrated and replicated career mentor program across that organization. And her methods have proven effective for mentors and mentees alike, resulting in career breakthroughs for professionals at all levels and cultures. Her book that she's going to share with us tonight is called Protege Power, a Roadmap for Mentorship, and that was just released this past summer. She is a professional comedy improviser, and when she is not speaking on workplace issues of engagement and inclusion, she performs improv comedy. And she's a frequent participant also in poetry and storytelling events around the Twin Cities. And tonight she's going to talk to us about mentoring, and primarily from the side of being a mentee and what you need to do. Well, Lori, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Becky. I absolutely love this idea of being a commodity. That is super, super fun.
I've been hanging around the wrong people lately.
Hey, you know what? Each one of us is doing the best that we can. I am going to share my screen, and I wonder if I need Adam or Mike to do something. Yes? Okay, good. That allows me to share my screen. Let's see if we got the technology working. Does everybody see a gorgeous picture of of something hopeful in the distance? Thank you, Becky, for inviting me. It is an honor to be with all of you. And though I have not personally been in the services, I've been in just a heck of a career transition a couple of times in my life. And frankly, it was through that sort of rawness of that crucible of needing to do a complete transformation in how I could survive and earn a living. I'm a single parent, solo parent, that really inspired me to discover how valuable it can be to have a mentor. And as Becky mentioned, it ended up being part of my professional life for probably 15 of my 20 years working in corporate America. And so I had an opportunity to study like up close and personal mentoring relationships, hundreds. And because I worked in international business and we were located in 38 countries, I was doing a lot with cross-cultural mentoring. And so what I'm going to share with you in the time that we have, it might seem pretty simple, which is good, because that would mean I've done my job after working with hundreds of people and being in this endeavor of really distilling what I learned into just some very workable, simple nuggets for each of you. That is my goal. So as Becky said, my name is Lori Crever. I'm a brand new author. That is one of the reasons that Becky and I got connected, is we were in a networking session over the summer. And when she found out I was getting ready to publish a book, it was, I think, at the printing press, probably, Becky, she said, oh, let's circle up. Let's talk further. I've published a couple of books. I would be happy, Lori, to tell you everything I know, anything I learned, anything I can do to help you. And I said, well, I would love that, because I'm passionate about mentoring. And that means I'm open. I'm very open to wisdom and guidance and some good advice, which I probably wasn't always that way. Life had to humble me a bit. So I call my book Protege Power, and it is available as an audiobook or e-reader. And we're going to do a drawing at the end here for the hardcover version of the book. And here you see a depiction of, can you believe it? This is the original, it's an artist's rendering. Betsy Conway, she's my illustrator. This is an artist's rendering of history's original mentor from ancient Greece. And his protege was a boy named Telemachus. Telemachus technically was a prince. So the word protege is something that brings up an idea of someone whose welfare, their training, their career, it is being looked after, possibly even being promoted by a person who is influential, right? So protege is a word that's connected to the word protect, as a derivation. There's another term that is used quite commonly in the business world that I hear, and maybe you have as well, and that is mentee, just meaning someone who's being mentored. In my book, I use the terms rather interchangeably. They're just a little bit different, but pretty similar. All right, so Homer's The Odyssey. If you've read it, well, wow, good for you. It's long. So I want to just give a very succinct, almost Reader's Digest version of the story of Mentor. So King Odysseus, he had to leave to go off and fight in the Trojan Wars. And he left the care of his son, Telemachus, with someone he trusted. That person's name was Mentor. But while the king was away for a decade fighting in this battle, there was trouble. SOS. There was a skirmish back in the realm. And if you can believe it, there was some usurpers that were trying to take over the throne as Telemachus was growing up and would have been ready to take that on. Where's the king? He's nowhere in sight. Mentor and Telemachus have to go off and find him. They had to find him because he had been wandering. He had been wandering for a very long time. So it took the two of them, Mentor and son Telemachus, to find dad, King Odysseus. They brought him back. They were able to assuage the efforts of the usurpers, earn back the throne, and Telemachus could assume his birthright. Thus, from that tale, ever so going forward, we have this idea of a mentor, of someone who can be there to protect, guide, steer, right? Help us to avoid disaster by nature of their experience, and importantly, by nature of the depth and quality of care that they have for us. But that is the origin story. So now you know where that word comes from. Why do we want to have a mentor? Well, like I say, I have been in the shoes of many of you, been in a dramatic career transformation, a career turnaround, right? Like doing a 180. And so, you're familiar, of course, with where you are. You have some idea, some concept about where you want to go. A mentor is someone who can be on our side and help us to plot out the steps to get from where we are to where we want to go. They do this with their willingness to provide guidance and feedback. And I suspect many of you that are tuned in and are part of the Eagle group, you're also mentors. You have mentored people and you are mentoring people, even if it's seemingly informal. That's really powerful. So I bet some of the things I say tonight, you'll be able to find that you can apply to your role when you're mentoring someone, as much as you're going to find things that you can apply when you're the mentee or the person that's being mentored. Now, how it is that the mentor is able to provide guidance and feedback is because they have a completely different point of view on our situation. They have a more exterior point of view. And in fact, I say, if your career is a journey, having a good mentor in your corner, it's like having a GPS. It's someone who can say, absolutely, Lori, do not send that email. Do not. That is going to create a worse situation than the situation that you're trying to resolve. And I bring that up because in the mentor program I ran, that was a pretty common use of a mentor, was to have them read in a sticky situation an email that the protege had drafted before they hit send. Because of course, the goal when you're in one of those is to calm the situation down, not inadvertently put fuel on the fire. So that's just one of a myriad of examples of wisdom and tactical know-how that a mentor can bring to your career aspirations. So the topics that I'm going to dive into are some best practices when we're the mentee. Also, I'm going to talk you through 5 simple ways that I see, if you don't have a mentor right now, but you want to acquire a mentor, 5 ways that you could recruit a mentor. All right, so let's dive in. Mentee best practices. I mentioned earlier that I operated a formal mentor program inside the international division of a multinational company. And part of my responsibility was working as marketing support for sponsorships. So I had part of my job was internal focused and part was external. Well, the beauty of being technically part of the marketing team was that we viewed our mentor program in the same way that you might view a product, such as Post-it notes. We were continuously looking to improve our product offering. So I was doing steady surveying of the mentee proteges as well as the mentors, and I would study what were the practices and the behaviors and attitudes that seemed to always result in the mentee having a big surge forward, a big upsurge in their career. And that could be expanding the job that they had, changing jobs into one that was more to their preference, more the job or the field that they desired. Could also be a substantial increase in salary. Or it could be, depending on the world that you're in, you know, a lot of companies similar to the military have a reward that's in the form of a title promotion, right? So in my world, we would consider it to be a substantial advance in your career if you move from being an assistant vice president to a vice president, something like that. So I set about distilling what is the secret sauce that uniformly is creating those big moves forward. And here they are. Number 1, the mentee drives the process. If you're the mentee, you take ownership of the relationship. It might seem counterintuitive at first, right? You think, well, if I'm going to recruit as my mentor, some big high roller, you know, who's just stellar and outstanding and busy and prominent, wouldn't they be driving it? And wouldn't they be the boss of the relationship? In fact, no. In a grown-up career mentoring relationship arrangement, I would strongly recommend, if you're the mentee, you take ownership and you drive the process. Second best practice, I call it know before you go. This means have some knowledge yourself about right now, what do you want to do? Right now, what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? Right? What is happening in the current that you are looking to tackle? And importantly, you are ready to tackle, okay? The third and most important component of being successful as a mentee and getting everything that you want out of this relationship is to be coachable. Each one of those, I know, sounds so simple, but they're not necessarily simple to put into action, right? So that's part of what I wrote a book about and what I'm here talking to you about. So starting with the mentee drives the process. just to break it down so it's in no way mysterious, here's how simple this can be as far as driving the process. Let's say that you have succeeded in identifying and earning the interest of a mentor in your advancement and success. Here's what I would recommend. Ask that mentor, would it be okay if I set up a recurring meeting on our calendar? They're going to say yes. If it's someone local here that you could get together in person, have coffee once a month, for example, maybe you want to just propose, how about every Tuesday, 7 a.m., and name the location. Good. You set up a recurring meeting on both of your calendars. Then what you do as the mentee, a few days before each meeting, you open up that occurrence, that meeting occurrence, and then you drop in for your mentor a really simple discussion agenda, probably just 2 or 3 items. What's in your heart? What's on your mind? Was there an assignment that they gave you the month previous? Put that in as a discussion item. Maybe they had you watch a TED Talk that really seemed it would help with what you were looking at or trying to solve right now. So then that becomes the following month part of the discussion agenda that you put in front of your mentor to say, I did watch that TED Talk that you steered me toward, and I got a lot out of it. I want to tell you what I learned. Then you hit send, and it puts that meeting agenda onto your mentor's calendar. This way, when you arrive for your meeting at their office or over Zoom or in a coffee shop, cafe, they're not in a mystery. They're not in a fog about what you need from them. You are making it with this simple best practice truly easy for your mentor to help you. They will appreciate this so much. Imagine if you're mentoring someone. Think about what happens from one month to the next. How much water under the bridge, how many demands and obligations, things that you're juggling, places you've had to be, right? Things that you've done. When you see this on your calendar, you can walk into that meeting with a lot of clarity. That's the gift that you're giving, honestly, to yourself. You're giving it to your mentor, but the person who's going to benefit is you. So that's what I mean when I say mentee drive the process. That's just one best practice connected to this, but you can find other ways to put this into action. The next practice that I recommend is to know some things about yourself before you commence the mentoring relationship. So it's almost like a divining rod, right? When you employ some self-knowledge, it's helping to steer you toward, what industry should I look for a mentor in? Or what type of job function or role? See that? So it helps you to start to narrow, where should you look for a mentor? What type of job responsibilities would be ideal for you that you could find a mentor in that field? So it's a very important step in recruiting a mentor. Self-knowledge can come from doing an assessment. And I suspect many of us have heard of a popular assessment called StrengthsFinders. Another one that's been around for a long time is called Myers-Briggs. Then there's one in the diversity world, which is called Intercultural Development Inventory. And that is another powerful assessment. Takes maybe 25 minutes to fill it out online. But what happens with that assessment, it places you on a spectrum of how do you respond when you encounter difference? And difference could be you're a pet owner and someone isn't. You're a parent and someone doesn't want children, right? I mean, difference can come in many different forms, but anything that you can do to acquire some self-knowledge, a little more self-knowledge, is very helpful, because let's play this out in reverse. Let's say someone comes to you and they would like you to mentor them. Wow, what a compliment. It's an enormous compliment. And you say, well, what is it that you would like me to help you with? And the person replies, oh, I don't know. I know I'm not happy in my job, and I just maybe want to see what else is out there. I guess I sort of need help with everything. That might be a valid place to be. Probably we've all been there. However, that would be almost impossible unless you had an unlimited amount of time and resources to mentor someone out of that, right? And I use it as an example. That is not my imagination. I probably heard that 10 to 12 times a year running a formal mentor program. I would say, great, you want a mentor. We'd love to have you in the program. What are you looking for help with? And the person would say, I just want to know what else is out there. Needle in a haystack. I'd say we're going to have a few more conversations so that we can start to narrow in on what is more specific for you that you're looking for help with. And then it will inform me who would be a really ideal mentor to help you with that thing or that set of things together. When you have made some decisions based on your own discoveries, and I'm confident that this group, Eagle, Veterans, Minnesota, this group is part of how you can keep making these discoveries and unpacking more about who you are and what you would like to do professionally and where you'd like to go. When you have concept around that, then that can help the mentor to see, or anybody that wants to help you right now, where they can give you support so that you can accomplish what that destination is that you have in mind. It's like I showed at the beginning, where you are and then where you want to go. How can we help you get there, right? You have many champions and would-be cheerleaders in your life. If you can articulate for them some concept of where you want to go, then that gives them something to jump on the bandwagon of you to help you get there. I know this. I know you are surrounded with people that want to see you succeed and do well. So another way that I look at this is, can you conceive of for yourself, what is your right now overarching career aim? So kind of the broader thing that you're trying to accomplish. It could be, I really like math and numbers. I wonder if I should go back to school and finish an accounting degree, right? Or it could be, a lot of people have told me I would enjoy sales. I've never really thought about being in sales, but that maybe would be a good area for me to explore. I know there's always sales jobs, right? You can always find work if you like sales and if you're good at it. Or maybe your dream and your passion is to start a business. So what I propose is that you figure out how you can articulate that as an aim that's very current, very present for you right now. And this would be a place you want to go, career-wise we're talking, or something you want to grow, or something you want to know. One time I had someone look to get into our mentor program, and her objective was she wanted to figure out for herself, should she pursue an MBA? Should she go to law school, or neither? Skip it, no grad school, just stay in her current career path and keep going. And you know what? That was a valid objective. Another objective that someone brought to me, she simply wanted to know how to read the Wall Street Journal. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, she knows how to read the Wall Street Journal. What she meant was she really wanted to know how to interpret what she was reading in the Wall Street Journal, how to sort out what is really important and what is relevant for the team that she was on and the nature of our industry. So think about that for yourself. You want to have some type of aim, because that, going back to my metaphor around career and journey, and a mentor can be like a GPS. You have a destination that you can articulate, and then you build a roadmap to get yourself there. So let's just take a couple minutes right now. Hopefully you have something to write with and some paper. And what ideas are percolating for you? I'm sure you have ideas on this before we even started our session tonight. But as you're hearing some things that I'm talking about, write down some ideas on what might be your right now overarching career aim. Not the 10-year plan, not even a 5-year plan, right? I don't even know if that's possible to find a mentor who wants to take you on for the next 5 years. But think more in terms of what's the passionate, burning desire career-wise for you, that you're really looking to get this hammered out and solved in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months. And write that down for yourself. And it can be definitely something that you share with someone else. It doesn't have to be. And it could just be right now, tonight, for our purposes, some ideas. Maybe right now you're in a brainstorming phase, and that is perfect. That is great. Sometimes that's what it takes. So I'm just going to pause and give you a couple minutes right now of just some space and reflection to write down some ideas for yourself. Mhm. And if there are some folks that have just joined recently, so my name is Lori Crever, and I grew up on a dirt road here in Minnesota, in Hugo, Minnesota, on a lake. And I dreamed of living in New York City. So I spent my 20s in New York City. I worked in the entertainment industry. I worked in music and television and theater. And then I came back to Minnesota, and I was going through a divorce, and I had an infant son. And a friend of mine, in a role of a mentor, encouraged me to apply for a job at a regional bank where she worked. And it was a really outlandish idea to me at the time. But I permitted her good advice to take root. And guess what? I had a great career for 2 decades in international banking, including I operated a mentor program and wrote a book about it. And so that's what we're talking about right now. What are some things that I learned, that I've learned myself from being mentored and from studying people that have really gotten a lot out of their mentoring relationship? So you see, I'm putting a lot of emphasis during our time together on this know before you go. Have that worked out before you pursue a mentoring relationship. So if you can see on this visual from Betsy Conway, my illustrator, this is a nice, robust shelf labeled My Dreams. And I hope that you have many of them. Most of us do, which is fantastic. However, for the purpose of working well with a mentor and using their time and generosity wisely, I'm recommending pick just one, okay? The reason you want to do this is because then with your mentor together, you're going to unpack and look at and cultivate the arrival at that dream. That's why I say, look at something that you desire to tackle in the next 6 to 12 months and let that inspire how you would identify the right mentor for yourself. Okay. The third of these 3 practices I advise for a mentee is this idea of being coachable. And I'm going to be honest with you, if there's any truth to the adage, we teach, but we need to learn, then this was the thing that was my Achilles heel. When I was a kid, almost every report card at the end of the year, if you had those report cards that they would put grades, but then there would be space for the teacher to comment, I guess, on your social development. Mine always had this comment, Lori does not accept criticism well. And I think that's who I was until I was getting a divorce and parenting solo. And what was I, 31 years old, 32 years old? That's kind of a late bloomer on this topic of being coachable. I think up until then, I thought I really knew most everything, right? And of course I didn't. And it was just life humbling me that caused me to shift gears completely. And boy, when I had that chance to launch a good full-time career with regular hours and benefits for my son and I became consciously quite coachable. This is super important in mentoring because, amongst other things, you being coachable is a great way to engage and inspire your mentor. When they can see that you are listening, right, and taking notes, and then from one month or one meeting to the next, you're putting action into what they're recommending that you try, that's inspiring for them. Then they think, wow, there's growth, there's movement, there's change. And then they're going to keep giving you bright ideas and maybe introducing you to people within their own network that could be helpful to you, that could be definitely part of your journey, maybe open a door for you. That's a very common thing that a mentor is able to do. But I say that with like a little bit of caution. Look at that last bullet point. No mentor that I've ever met wants someone to ride on their coattails. No, they want to see that when we're the mentee, we're putting our shoulder to the wheel and we're definitely doing the work. Okay. When they see that, it inspires them to even give us more help and bright ideas. The other part on this being coachable, because it's your experience and you're driving the relationship, is I want you to pick things that you're ready to work on. Pick things to bring to your mentor to say, hey, I'm falling down. I honestly need help. I do not understand social media. What happened? I don't get it. Unless you're ready to start learning about social media and doing something about it, don't bring it up. Don't put it into the mentoring conversation. It will not be the best use of your mentor's time, right? You want to be engaging them on things that you're ready to tackle. On this idea of being coachable, just take a moment right now. Think about in your life, work, maybe on a sports team that you were on, maybe somebody that you're related to. Consider someone that you've encountered who is not coachable, not going to take feedback. Nope, not going to do it. reflect. How has life turned out for that person? I don't want any names. I'm thinking of someone that I know who got a sports baseball scholarship to go to university. And then in his first year was injured. And he is ready to retire now. He has been miserable his entire working life because he never was able to hear or receive any guidance, any really truly new big ideas about what he could do for his profession after his baseball dreams were derailed. And that was a very traumatic thing. I'm not invalidating that in any way, but he stayed really wedged into that and just almost like cloud cover. Nothing else really, no other sunlight could penetrate that. And that's not how we want to be. That's why I'm really from my heart telling you, let's work on being coachable. Doesn't mean we're a leaf just sort of blowing about in the sidewalks and streets and gutters and any which way anybody tells us to go, we'll do that. No, that's not what I mean. You're always going to exercise discernment. You're always going to be weighing out advice that you receive, including from your mentor. Does that really sound like me? Is that something I could do? Would that work well for me? If something that your mentor recommends you disagree with, tell them that and explain to them why. You're still, of course, the boss of you. All right. Last thing I wanted to share, if I've gotten you excited about finding and working with a mentor, is how do you recruit a mentor? For many of us, we're pretty shy, right? If you were raised in the Midwest, or many other cultures are this way too, humble, we don't want to ask for anything. We don't want to admit that we need help, right? That can be very difficult. So here's a bit of savvy on what I find to be 5 workable ways to obtain your ideal mentor. First is seek out a seasoned professional that you know who also knows you and ask them to be your mentor. That is pretty simple. Perhaps the only downside in that is, what if their schedule is truly full and they don't feel like they can take on that additional responsibility? So you want to make sure that you're giving them the option and really acknowledging, I know you're very busy. I would love if you could spend some time with me regularly to mentor me on, tell them what it is that you need help with that you consider they're very strong on, right? And see if they can do it, but no obligation. They are free to say no. Let's say that they say no and they are a boss. Maybe they run their own business or they have a department or division. If they say no because their schedule won't exactly permit this right now, politely ask them, do you have someone else you could recommend? Now that I've told you what I want to work on in my career, someone else you could recommend that could mentor me. They might have someone on their team who's an absolute superstar, very good at what the skills that you're looking to develop, right? Knowledge you're looking to gain. And that person, in fact, might be someone that you would have better access to than, the more senior person that you initially approached. So that's one idea. A second idea is to look for a seasoned professional that could be your mentor, that you have qualified them in your own mind. You've seen them, right? But they don't really know you yet. You don't really have an exact connection. And so this is going to require what we would call in sales a cold call. Someone recruited me to be their mentor one time this way. they had attended an event where I was the speaker. This person was a new manager and wanted to work on public speaking skills. So they sent me a very courteous email and explained they had just seen me the day before. This was something that they wanted to work on themselves, and would I be willing to mentor them? It was just something I couldn't say no to. It was such a practical approach, very simple how the person laid it out. And I ended up having such a great experience working with this colleague, became a good friend to me. I learned a lot about her business. I got as much out of it, maybe more than she did, but that was technically a cold call. All right, a third way that you could obtain the mentor of your dreams is find someone who can act as a bridge between the two of you. That's how I found a mentor in my company. I read about him in an article in our company magazine, and it was such a great piece. And I had not known who he was or about his department. They did a lot with nonprofits and hospitals and universities, just had a lot of impact and exposure to what was going on in communities around the United States. And I was so intrigued. And he seemed like a person of character. But frankly, I was afraid if I just cold called him, right? Just sort of sent him an email out of the blue, it might look like I was stalking him. I mean, after all, he had just been featured in a big company magazine. But then I remembered, I am acquainted with the person who is the marketing manager in his broader division. So I recruited her to be the go-between, to act as the go-between. She knew me well enough that she knew I wouldn't make a, bad situation out of the opportunity if he said yes. And she definitely knew him really well. And she endorsed him to me. She said, "Oh, you would be very fortunate if he would take you on, because he's just a terrific human being and he's very good at what he does, and, would be happy to help you, I imagine, if his schedule would permit." So I got a fabulous mentor that way. Another approach could be, if you are in a work situation currently and you desire a mentor, how about, what's your relationship with the manager or supervisor to whom you report? Would they be someone that could be a source of helping you to uncover a great mentor, maybe even helping you to recruit that person to be your mentor? The last method that I recommend is that you look for a mentor program, so that you could sign up and there would be a person or a team, very much like that role I described to you that I had in my corporate job, where it was a bit like, well, I could say it was a bit like running a blind dating service, a dating service where I was making matches, not romantic in any way, but just that type of methodology of forecasting. Okay, will they get along? Will this be some good, workplace chemistry so that they can get some work done? I also liken that role of being a program coordinator to a concierge at a nice hotel. That person who potentially could get you impossible reservation at a restaurant or those impossible concert tickets. A program coordinator or a program team could really broker a very nice match for you. And, there might be a mentor program available to you through a community group, through a college or university where you are an alumnus, or in the company where you work presently. So that would be an option. Note, it's not an accident I put that one last. That's because percentage-wise, relatively few of us have access to a mentor program. So think about some of those other ways first. All right. I can see the chat. And so I want to open it up right now. If there's any specific questions that anyone wants to pose to me, or I'm not sure.